Welcome to this week's Cattle Call. I'm Susan Littlefield on the Rural Radio Network. Cattle Call, of course, brought to you by Wolf Auto. Small town strong. Lots of, I wish we could say we're doing this on a day that had some excitement to the markets, but it might be a little bit of a time for a correction as we see those numbers playing on the downside. Maybe look at it this way. It was time for a breather. Catch our breath because there is still a potential we could see that cash move even higher. We're going to talk about that and a lot of other factors today as Brad Kooima joins us. He is with Kooima & Varlick out of Sioux Center, Iowa. And welcome back. I know Scott did a great job filling in for you last week, and we appreciate him stepping in. Good to have you back in the driver's seat. Let's talk a little bit. You talk about it being time maybe for a correction. And I always keep thinking of your saying that you have on a Post-it note, up the escalator, down the elevator. And I hope we're not headed to an elevator anytime soon.
Well, that's it's funny that you brought that one up because I was thinking if I had to pull that out here on our deal today. Thanks for having me on, Susan. I'm not surprised. Scott did a great job. He always does. It was fun to be away for a little while. Yeah, there's quite a bit to unpack here. Of course, it's always more fun anytime. By nature, one likes to be optimistic, right? At least I do. So it's more fun to talk on updates. But, Rome wasn't built in a day, and the market doesn't go up every day, even the major bull markets like we've experienced here. So I think, first of all, guys have been asking me, is it the January 20? So it sounds like we do have an official open date on the Mexican border, January 20. And I would caution everybody from everything that we've been told here, that it's not going to be like opening a floodgate. It's going to be pretty slow as they adjust to, these visual inspections, the need to treat them with ivermectin, the blah, blah, blah. And different states are having a little different response time to exactly what their expectations are. So I really don't think that's what we're trading, but, feeder cattle down $3. I've been asked that question. I think we're really trading a very, very volatile market. It's very overbought, very high priced, of course. And yet a market both on the feeders and the fats that are still discounted to the cash market. Feeder cattle index rolling along here. It's going to be close to 273 tomorrow. And the front month is at 265 something. So the market, this sounds dumb, but I'm going to say it anyway. Everybody has seen that flock of starlings, right? Where it looks like there's a couple thousand of them, and they all of a sudden, there they all go to the west, right? And then what makes them take a right-hand turn and all go back that way again? And I know that the market is not a game, and I know that it's not a crapshoot like that, but sometimes the market has those kinds of characteristics where it's a herd mentality, follow the leader. Okay, we're going to sell off. As a cattle feeder myself, I can empathize with the calls that I'm getting. These guys are nervous. I mean, these guys are. There's a lot of risk when you're paying this much for feeder cattle, and the near all-time high record prices for live cattle, for fat cattle. It just adds to the drama, and then you get a break, and people probably maybe overreact a little bit. If you asked me, do I think the high is in? I would say I don't think so. The fact that we're discounted to the cash market this much, I think, is still an encouraging sign, and I think the cash market is still in good shape, Susan.
Well, and you look at the sale barns and the sales that they've been having, that sets the tone right there for what's going on in the country, the old-fashioned way of doing that marketing.
The last real place of price discovery is the sale barn, 100% right. And I think you make a great point. This live cattle auctions here up in my neck of the woods this week they've been really high. Okay, you've got non-implant cattle bringing easily north of 210. Conventional cattle bringing in the low twos or more. So it would appear as though there's a packer or two that let himself get pretty close to the knife again if he's willing to chase or needs to chase that hard at a sale barn to buy cattle that probably don't have the greatest way up in the world too. So last week, the high of the whole deal for us here was 201. Mostly it was 200. Asking prices here are higher than that. I don't think that this will change our ideas on a Wednesday either. So it'll probably be a late week trade. And I still wouldn't be at all surprised that you don't hear some 202 to 203 quoted on the north on the right kind. once again, I guess a gentle reminder. I think that the supply of cattle in Iowa is still very tight and tighter than what most people think, and I think that's still important. We've had great weather. We've had cattle that are selling at a profit. You got a futures market that's telling you to sell them because we're discounted, and that's what we've been doing. So I think you're actually pulling, believe it or not, I think you're pulling cattle forward up in the north. Mostly because of the price and also because the market's, everybody's nervous, like I said earlier.
So look at that storm that moved through Kansas. We know some feedlots had 15, 18 plus inches of snow, but it doesn't seem to be getting much of market nervousness or attention at all.
And I'm a little surprised at that, actually. Part of it maybe because it was such an open winter up until then. And it depends on which forecast you listen to. Weather's tough, but, some of those areas are going to get the potential of getting smoked again here this weekend. And once that starts to pattern, there's a lot of winter left now. I'm a little surprised as well. So, maybe we just got to, tap them over the forehead with a couple more storms. Where I'm sitting, we don't have a speck of snow on the ground. It's been the most open winter. By the way, it's 50 below degrees. If you want to remember the anniversary a year ago. Lost all kinds of cattle. At least we sure did in northeast Nebraska, where I feed too. It's cold, but it's certainly nothing that's hurting our gains here today for sure.
So Scott had mentioned last week that January is kind of a tougher month to market cattle. What are your thoughts for these last couple of weeks in the month?
Well, we came into the new year with the kind of this perception that there was going to be more cattle in the first quarter than there was in the fourth quarter. I didn't buy that, not in my neighborhood. Now, maybe there is a few more in the South. Typically there is. Sometimes you get a little bit of a two-edged sword here where maybe there's not quite that rip and spiffy demand that you had going into the holidays. The packer is feeling sorry for himself. Oh gosh, guys, I can't make any money. You're starting to hear a couple of the majors talking about, well, we might have to go to 32 hours, trying to slow the kill down to try to gain some leverage back, which they've totally lost. Don't be too alarmed if you hear a little of that chatter. In my opinion, if this lasts for a long, long time where they actually did cut the kill, which they haven't yet, then maybe that would make a difference. But, the irony of that whole story, Susan, is just down the road a little ways, they're going to open a plant in April from you. So we're not talking about decreasing the kill capacity. We're talking about increasing the kill capacity. A difficult time, probably timing, but how do you know, right? When you start a project that big. So I don't know, sometimes January can be a little bit wobbly, especially if you don't have any, tough weather. So you keep an eye on the weather, but as long as we remain this discount here, I feel a little more encouraged.
All right, Brad, what's the best way for folks to get a hold of you?
Check us out on kkvtrading.com or the phone number 712-722-0023.
All right, that's been another edition of Cattle Call. Quick reminder that commodity futures and options do involve a substantial risk of loss, not suitable to all investors. And of course, Cattle Call is brought to you by Wolf Auto, small town strong. And that's been another edition of the Cattle Call on the Rural Radio Network.